right, crew, Abe here, and we've just dropped into a real nightmare kitchen. This place is a crumbling labyrinth, walls weeping with ancient moisture. The air hangs heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something profoundly dormant. Our recipe calls for crypt moss and stagnant water, and this environment is overflowing. I'm seeing clumps of this moss, a deep, velvety emerald clinging to every water-slicked surface. It emits a faint, internal luminescence, almost like a slow, rhythmic breath. The water below, dark and unmoving, holds a rich, earthy aroma, hinting at forgotten nutrients. I'll use my stainless steel tongs to gently lift a strand of the moss. It feels surprisingly resilient, with a subtle, viscous resistance. As I bring it closer, isolating its unique fragrance, a strange, profound pressure builds behind my eyes. It's not pain, but a sudden, disorienting weight in the air, making the edges of my vision momentarily blur. Have you ever felt a smell this tangible? Crew, this labyrinth just got a whole lot more interesting. A hunched figure, cloaked in shadow-spun rags, emerged from the weeping walls. "Careful with the dream weave, young one," a raspy voice crackled, and the memory mire below. This local, a whisper keeper by the look of their ancient tools, knows this place intimately. They call the glowing moss dreamweave and the dark water memory mire. I'm using my tongs to gently separate a strand of the dreamweave from the memory mire, observing its viscous resistance. The whisper keeper says the dreamweave holds the labyrinth's slumber and the mire feeds its forgotten thoughts. As I isolate the dreamweave's unique fragrance, the pressure behind my eyes intensifies, a dull throb now. The dreamweave's luminescence pulses erratically, mirroring the sudden blur in my vision. I hear a faint, distant whisper that wasn't there before, a subtle vibration in the air. It feels like the memory mire is actively trying to pull at my very perception, a profound, unseen current. Have you ever encountered a local whose words felt like they were reshaping the very air around you? All right, crew, the whispers are getting louder, and this pressure behind my eyes is a real culinary challenge. I found a secluded alcove, almost a shrine, where the dreamweave glows with an almost sentient intensity. Ancient, faded glyphs on the damp stone seem to hum with the same low frequency as the memory mire below. I'm using my tongs to carefully lift a larger clump of dreamweave, separating it from the mire's dark embrace. The moss feels incredibly dense, almost magnetic, pulling against the steel. Its fragrance, usually a subtle emerald breath, now surges, becoming intoxicatingly sweet, almost narcotic. As I pull, the luminescence of the dreamweave flares, and a profound lethargy washes over me, heavy and sudden. The whispers coalesce into a low, soporific drone, and the edges of my vision narrow, threatening to pull me into a deep, unbidden slumber. This ingredient is actively resisting purification. Have you ever felt an ingredient fight back with such insidious intent? All right, crew, this dreamweave is proving to be a truly stubborn ingredient, but Abe never backs down from a challenge. The alcove feels colder now, the memory mire below shimmering with faint internal currents. A small, hunched mire tender, their skin like aged bark, watches from the shadows. I'm using my finest filleting knife, its edge honed to molecular perfection, to precisely sever a section of the dreamweave. The mire tender croaks. "Not with steel, young chef. It binds when cut." I ignore the warning, confident in my blade's mastery. As the blade bites, a high-pitched shriek erupts from the weave. a sound like tearing silk and grinding stone. The lethargy from before explodes into a full-body paralysis, locking my muscles rigid. The soporific drone becomes a piercing, cacophonous wail that vibrates through my skull, threatening to shatter my focus. My vision doesn't just narrow, it fractures into 1,000 shimmering shards, each one a distorted echo of the mire. I'm frozen, my knife hand trembling, inches from the surging memory mire. How do you purify an ingredient that screams when you try to master it? This paralysis is a nuisance, crew, but Abe doesn't stay frozen for long. My vision still shatters, each shard reflecting the mire tender's ancient, knowing gaze. "Steel binds, young chef," the mire tender rasps, their voice a dry rustle of leaves. They were right. The dreamweave screams under the blade, its wail a physical force. My hands are locked, but my mind is racing. I shift my weight, just enough to nudge the small, resonant chime hanging from my belt. It's crafted from a rare, petrified wood, designed to separate delicate ingredients through precise vibration. The chime emits a low, resonant thrum, a sound like deep earth breathing. The dreamweave's shriek falters, replaced by a confused, undulating hum. The paralysis doesn't lift, but the cacophony recedes, allowing a sliver of focus. The mire tender's eyes widen, a flicker of surprise in their bark-like face. The weave still resists, but now it listens. How do you coax an ingredient that only responds to a whisper? All right, crew, this dreamweave might scream, but Abe knows how to make it listen. The chime's low thrum keeps the weave's chaotic hum at bay, a delicate balance. With my tongs, I carefully guide the shimmering strands into a makeshift ceramic vessel, its surface etched with stabilizing runes. The mire tender watches, a silent, ancient sentinel. As the last strand settles, a profound heaviness descends, not just from the ingredient, but from the air itself. The space where the weave once clung now feels like a hollow, a sudden vacuum of scent and presence. My vision blurs again, the edges of the labyrinth shimmering with an unnatural heat, the direct feedback from the contained energy. The paralysis still grips me, making every movement a deliberate, straining effort against the weave's persistent internal resistance. This ingredient doesn't just exist, it actively pushes against its new confines. The vessel vibrates with a low resonant hum, mirroring the chime's frequency, barely containing the volatile energy. My hands ache, not from the paralysis, but from the sheer density of the contained dreamweave. How do you transport an ingredient that actively tries to escape its own container? All right, crew, Abe here, and this labyrinth is actively trying to reclaim its missing piece. The air now shrieks with the void where the dreamweave once clung, a sharp, acrid absence that stings my nostrils with raw, exposed stone. Dust plumes erupt from crumbling archways, the very stone groaning under the sudden, profound imbalance. My hands, still aching from the weave's contained density, brace the ceramic vessel against my chest, using my body as a living counterweight to the tremors. Each step is a deliberate, straining effort, my muscles burning against the persistent internal resistance of the ingredient and the external, jarring vibrations. The chime's low thrum struggles to maintain its frequency, its stabilizing hum now a desperate, high-pitched pulse against the escalating chaos. My vision blurs again, the edges of the collapsing passages shimmering with an unnatural heat, a direct feedback from the ingredient's contained, volatile energy. The ground heaves beneath my feet, a profound rejection of the weave's removal, threatening to swallow me whole into the deepening rifts. This isn't just a path, it's a collapsing memory, actively trying to erase my presence and the ingredient with it. How do you outmaneuver a world that's literally falling apart around you, demanding its essence back? All right, crew, this labyrinth isn't just crumbling, it's actively trying to reabsorb its essence. The ground still heaves beneath my feet, a guttural groan echoing through the acrid dust that chokes the air. I brace the ceramic vessel against my chest, its contained dreamweave pulsing with a raw, demanding energy. My hands, still aching, move with practiced precision, gripping my specialized culinary tongs. I carefully compress the dreamweave within the vessel, using the tongs to fold and secure its volatile strands. This isn't about brute force, it's about understanding its internal resistance, its desperate desire to expand. Some might say this ingredient demands the sterile precision of a Chef Ferran's lab, but I say raw power demands raw skill. A sudden, astringent emptiness blooms in my perception, a non-taste sensation that feels like my very senses are being pulled thin. It's a profound internal disconnection, a phantom void where my awareness feels stretched and fragile. The chime's stabilizing hum now sounds like a distant, desperate whisper against this encroaching sensory drain. How do you refine an ingredient that fights back with the very fabric of reality, crew? All right, crew, this is it. The moment we've been building towards, the first bite of the lichen of long sleep. I've purified this crypt moss to its absolute essence, a shimmering emerald gel that pulses with a faint internal light. The air around it now carries a profound, earthy stillness, like a forest floor after a millennia of quiet slumber. I carefully scoop a small, resilient portion with my bare fingers. It feels cool, almost inert, yet subtly viscous. Bringing it to my lips, the aroma intensifies, a deep mineral scent hinting at ancient, undisturbed earth and something profoundly patient. I consume it. Immediately, the world around me seems to stretch, to thin, as if viewed through a vast, unmoving ocean. Colors drain from my vision, replaced by a muted, sepia-toned canvas. Every edge softened, every shadow deepened. Sounds become elongated echoes, each vibration a deliberate, heavy pulse like a distant, slow-beating drum. My own thoughts feel like they're navigating a deep, still pool. Every idea a ripple that takes ages to reach the surface. This isn't just a physical slowing, it's a profound, internal dilation of time itself, a tangible confirmation of the locals' warning. How do you measure a recipe's success when reality itself becomes the ingredient? Crew. All right, crew, Abe here, and we just rewrote the timeline. The sepia filter is finally lifting, but the world isn't snapping back to its old rhythm. The air, once heavy with that profound stillness, now carries a faint, lingering echo of it, a subtle, persistent hum in my ears. My internal clock, once precise, now feels permanently recalibrated. Every second, a deliberate, drawn-out beat. This isn't just a temporary effect. The lichen of long sleep has woven its slow tempo into my very perception. I feel a deep, unhurried patience settling into my bones, a new kind of calm, a profound internal dilation that remains. My movements feel more deliberate, my thoughts like deep, slow currents, yet sharper, more focused. Some whisper that Chef Ferran, with all his advanced chronometers and elite knowledge, could never detect a shift this fundamental. But my senses confirm it. The curse just got a permanent upgrade, a new constant hum in my very being. This new, dilated awareness will be our edge, not a hindrance, a constant reminder of the ingredient's power. How do we measure success when our own pulse dictates the pace of reality, crew?